A very warm welcome. You're watching NDTV 24/7. I'm Shanakshi Chakrabarti. The big story: 2 people were killed after a helicopter crashed at an airport in Chhattisgarh's Raipur. The police have said the helicopter caught fire when the pilots were trying to land the helicopter. The chopper pilots, both the pilots on board, have died unfortunately in this accident. Captain Gopal Krishna Panda and Captain AP Srivastava were killed in this accident. The police have confirmed. Meanwhile, Chhattisgarh Chief Minister has paid his tributes to this unfortunate accident via a tweet. He said, and I quote, "Just got a sad news about the state helicopter crashing at the airport in Raipur. In this tragic accident, both our pilots, Captain Panda and Captain Srivastava, have died. May God give strength to his family members and peace to the departed soul in this time of grief." That's what the Chief Minister, Mr. Baghel, has said in a tweet. I'm joined by my colleague Anurag Dwari for more on this. Anurag, 2 pilots have been killed dead in this chopper crash, a very unfortunate one. What more details can you share with us? How do we know how did the chopper really crash at the airport?
Sonakshi, the chopper crashed at around 9:10 p.m. Away from the main runway and near the taxiway, and it was Augusta 109 VTCAG, crashed at the Raipur airport, and both the pilots were killed. The crew was undergoing nighttime flying proficiency checks, and there were no passengers on board, and they were taken to the hospital where they were declared dead, unfortunately. They were identified as Captain Panda and Captain Srivastava, as you said, and Chief Minister Bhupesh Baghel also tweeted, and he said that just got a sad news about the state helicopter crashing at the airport in Raipur. In this tragic accident, both our pilots, Captain Panda and Captain Srivastava, have sadly passed away. May God give strength to his family members and peace to the departed soul in this time of grief. So this news was also confirmed by the Chief Minister, and as of now, the post-mortem and the staff at the Ramakrishna Hospital are performing the post-mortem.
All right, Anurag, thanks very much with those details. An unfortunate accident there at Raipur airport. 2 pilots have died in the chopper crash in Chhattisgarh's Raipur. The chopper is a state-owned chopper. That's what we have understood so far. The helicopter crash has taken place at the Raipur airport, which has unfortunately killed both the pilots on board. Thanks very much, Anurag. Moving focus now to India's retail inflation, which has surged to 7.79% in April, largely driven by rising fuel and food prices, the government data has showed on Thursday. The consumer price-based inflation figure stayed well above the RBI's upper tolerance limit for the 4th consecutive month. At 7.8%, the retail inflation hits 8-year high since September 2014. In fact, in April, the rural inflation at 8.47 worse than the urban, which is at 7.1%. The big change, though, a year ago, the rural inflation was far lower than the urban. Retail inflation above RBI's comfort limit for the 4th straight month. In fact, inflation has been driven by food and fuel. Both food inflation is at 8.1% for April versus a 7.7% in March. High inflation, low bank rates equals negative returns on savings.
Living on the fringes of upmarket South Kolkata, 67-year-old Sudama Beta says working all waking hours is still not enough to meet even the basic needs of his family of 10. Inflation, he says, has become a life and death issue.
सरकार को सोचना चाहिए कि 5,000 कमा करके 10 परिवार को चलाने वाला आदमी कैसे चला सकता है। तब तो हम लोगों को लास्ट में मरना ही होगा, जीना नहीं।
Yellow taxi driver Mridul Nag says income has in fact dipped, but his costs have spiraled, both fuel and domestic expenses.
ये 7,000 रुपये में परिवार चल रहा था, नारिक नहीं चल रहा। कैसे चला रहा था? वो ऐसे चला रहा है, दाल भात खा के।
Tea vendor Gautam Das says mere survival has become a question mark given steep costs.
कैसे परिवार चलाएगा वही सोच रहा है।
तो आपका कमाई क्यों कम हुआ?
कमाई कम होगा, चीज का सामान बढ़ रहा है ना। सामान गैस का दाम बढ़ गया, चीनी का दाम बढ़ गया, भाड़ का दाम बढ़ गया, दूध का दाम बढ़ गया। पहले जितना दुख था अभी उतने उससे ज्यादा दुख हो गया।
In Kerala's Thiruvananthapuram, 44-year-old Lajis Pereira points out that inflation this time has spared none. She is struggling to support aging and ailing parents on her father's monthly pension, pointing out that just for a domestic gas cylinder, she has to pay 1,050 rupees now.
Prices are just soaring high regarding any commodity. For example, for instance, if it is cooking oil, whether it's cooking oil or cooking gas.
In Guwahati, 40-year-old Rajshri says she had high hopes from the BJP government but is now disappointed as the price of all essential commodities has gone up but her husband's earnings have dipped. So running the household has become a challenge.
हम लोग कैसे चलेंगे? इनकम भी तो चाहिए ना। स्कूल का एडमिशन है, खाने का है, खाने को तो सब्जी वगैरह सबका दाम बढ़ा दिया है।
The prices are too hot to handle and across the country, inflation has spared no one. Mr. Prasad, who's been doing this business for the last 20 years, says even the COVID pandemic he was able to cope with. But the price rise has been too hot to handle and to survive. With inputs from Shankar in Kolkata, SP Babu in Thiruvananthapuram, Ratnadeep in Guwahati, in Hyderabad with camera person Nagraju, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.
The common man facing the brunt. Moving focus now to terrorists who have killed a man in the Budgam district of Jammu and Kashmir on Thursday in what appeared to be yet another instance of a targeted attack. Rahul Bhatt, a 36-year-old Kashmiri Pandit, was fired upon at the Tehsildar office in the Chadura village. He was critically injured and was been shifted to a local hospital where he died due to his injuries. The police say two terrorists barged into the government office and shot Mr. Bhatt, an employee there, at point-blank range. We spoke to our colleague Nazir Masoodi for more on this. Listen in.
Kashmiri Pandits are on a sit-in protest demanding justice, demanding punishment to the killers of Rahul Bhatt, who was shot from point blank inside his office. This is the most horrible incident where you can see an employee, Kashmiri Pandit employee who was serving here for the last 10 years. He's being shot so brutally here. And you can see here Kashmiri Pandits, you're sitting on a sit-in protest. They are demanding justice. You can see our senior officers like the Divisional Commissioner Kashmir, DIG and other senior officers. They are trying to persuade them to just move away from this place. In fact, the body of Rahul Bhatt was shifted from this area. It was brought here. Then it was shifted from here. That is being now shifted to Jammu.
More news from Uttar Pradesh. 3 crucial hearings in the state. In Varanasi, video survey of the Gyanvapi mosque adjoining the Kashi Vishwanath temple has been permitted despite stiff opposition from the mosque committee. A report has to be submitted by Tuesday, the 17th of May. The judge in the case has said his family was scared for his life. The Allahabad High Court dismissed a petition to open 22 closed doors of the Taj Mahal. In the Krishna Janmabhoomi case, the Allahabad High Court has said decision on all such cases should be taken within 4 months. In fact, the Allahabad High Court has also rejected petition to open Taj doors, the doors of Taj Mahal. The Allahabad High Court to petitioner says go read history, do a PhD. Do not make a mockery of PIL system. Welcome to debate issue in the drawing room. That's what the Allahabad court says. Issue not for debate in a court of law. I read on and I quote, tomorrow you will ask to see judges' chambers. That's what the Allahabad court to the petitioner has said on the petition of doors of Taj Mahal. Prime Minister Modi on Thursday said that a senior opposition leader told him that becoming the Prime Minister twice is enough. How Prime Minister said the leader doesn't know Modi made of different metal, Listen in.
मुझे एक दिन एक बहुत बड़े नेता मिले थे, वरिष्ठ नेता हैं। वैसे हमारे लगातार विरोध भी करते हैं, राजनीतिक विरोध भी करते रहे, लेकिन मैं उनका आदर भी करता रहता हूं। तो कुछ बातों के कारण उनको थोड़ा सा राजी नाराजी थी, तो एक दिन मिलने आए तो कहा, मोदी जी ये क्या करना है, 2-2 बार देश ने आपको प्रधानमंत्री बना दिया, अब क्या करना है। उनको लगता था कि 2 बार प्रधानमंत्री बन गया मतलब बहुत कुछ हो गया। उनको पता नहीं है मोदी किसी अलग मिट्टी का है, ये गुजरात की धरती ने उसको तैयार किया है।
And latest pictures of Rahul Gandhi being welcomed at the Pataudi railway station on way to Udaipur. A Chintan Shivir of the Congress will be underway in Udaipur. This is the largest Congress meet in 8 years. My colleagues Sunil and Harsha Kumari Singh bring us these ground reports.
We are en route to Udaipur, and here on the Chetak Express, Rahul Gandhi is on this train, and at every possible railway station, the Congress workers have been galvanized to meet him, to really show their show of strength ahead of that Udaipur brainstorming session. It's a make or break session for the Congress party, and you can see here people running away, continuing to try to beat him. If we attempt to go right up to the station, we might miss getting on the train, so we are avoiding that. But definitely there are crowds who continue to focus and make a political point that Rahul Gandhi should take over as the Congress president. The big question remains whether he will do so, but more importantly for the Congress party, they need to do some very important brainstorming session in terms of structural reforms. The Congress party is keen to ensure that one way or the other the party becomes the party of the future, so as to be able to ensure that people below 50 years get more active role. So we are definitely going to see some very important structural reforms with the Congress Working Committee at least having below 50 years of members of parliament, members in the Congress Working Group. With camera person Mohammed Mursalin, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
आपने एक और बात कही थी कि जितने डेलीगेट्स यहाँ पर आ रहे हैं 40 के एज के आसपास हैं, यूथ है, तो एक यूथ को एक नया लीडरशिप आगे करना, लीडरशिप के रोल में लाना, क्या आपको लगता है ये अहम है पार्टी के लिए?
ये तो देखिए कांग्रेस की एक सोच है, वो दर्शाती है, क्योंकि जो 450 लोग आ रहे हैं देश भर के उदयपुर में, उनमें से आधे 40 साल से कम उम्र के लोग हैं, महिलाओं का पार्टिसिपेशन ज़्यादा है। तो राहुल जी, सोनिया जी सभी चाहते हैं कि युवाओं की हम आवाज़ को सुनें, उनका ज़मीन का जो फीडबैक है उसको हम लें और उसके बाद हम अपना नीति निर्माण करें। और कांग्रेस हमेशा सुझाव के लिए ओपन रही है और बड़े खुले दिमाग से हम लोग यहाँ चर्चा करेंगे और 3 दिन के बाद जो भी चर्चा का निष्कर्ष निकलेगा उसको हम इम्प्लीमेंट करके जनता के बीच जाएंगे।
राजस्थान में हम देख रहे हैं कि सांप्रदायिक तनाव काफी बढ़ रहा है, 1 साल से थोड़ा सा ज्यादा रह गया चुनाव के लिए। सांप्रदायिक जो टेंशन्स हो रहे हैं उसको आप कैसे काउंटर करेंगे, उसके लिए क्या रणनीति रहेगी?
देखिए, ये राजस्थान एक हमेशा शांति प्रदेश रहा है, सब लोग अमन चैन भाईचारे से रहते आए हैं। वो ताकतें जो इस प्रकार के टकराव को बढ़ावा दे रही हैं उनको रोकना पड़ेगा और इसमें राजनीति ना करते हुए जो हमारे विपक्षी साथी हैं को समझना पड़ेगा कि डेवलपमेंट पर चर्चा करो, महंगाई, बेरोजगारी, अर्थव्यवस्था के ऊपर, किसान कृषि के ऊपर, इन मुद्दों से लोगों का ध्यान डाइवर्ट करने की जो कोशिश कर रहे हैं, मुझे लगता है उसमें नाकाम रहेंगे।
Sri Lanka's veteran political leader Ranil Wickremesinghe has been appointed the next Prime Minister of the crisis-hit island nation by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Mr. Wickremesinghe, a 4-time Prime Minister of the country, appeared as the only option. But the question is, will he be able to bring back stability to the crisis-hit island nation? Here are reports by my colleague Shrija.
The chorus now we are hearing is, of course, one being Gotabaya Rajapaksa should go home and Ranil go home. Now these are the 2 demands of citizens of Sri Lanka. People have gathered here. The crowd is swelling now once again here on Golface Road, one of the iconic locations right here just adjacent especially near the old parliament. What we are witnessing is a Sri Lankan uprising just hours after the appointment of Ranil Wickremesinghe as the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. So what changes now? Are people of Sri Lanka happy about it? In fact, they tell us that nothing's really going to change with the appointment of Ranil Wickremesinghe, because as long as Gotabaya Rajpaksha is still in power, is still in the government, it will be very difficult, Sri Lanka as a country, to come out of this huge economic mess. What do you think with the appointment of Ranil Wickremesinghe? Do you think anything is going to change?
One thing is that he doesn't have the public's mandate to be the Prime Minister. He was rejected during the previous general elections. Secondly, he was directly involved with the bond scam, which actually led to a huge drain of foreign exchange from the bonds market, which the Sri Lanka was actually refinancing through rupees, and they were not paying dollars for that.
I think with this situation, because you guys know we don't have fuel, current, we are in such a disaster. It's a mess. So my point of view is, at the moment, this is okay. So because we know that Ranil has he's an experienced politician.
The bone of contention just remains the same, whether it is the appointment of Ranil as a Prime Minister or not. They say that as long as even Ranil remains as a Prime Minister, they still do not want a government under Gotabaya Rajpaksha. In Colombo, with camera person Govind Murthy Shrija for NDTV. The island nation Sri Lanka is seeing a wave of unprecedented protests. Here at the demonstration site in Golface, Colombo, people from all religious communities have come together in the face of economic distress, demanding the resignation of President Gotabaya Rajpaksha. The Rajpakshas came to power on the back of muscular nationalism, riding high on the back of the support of the majority Sinhalese community. Minority Tamils, Muslims and the Christians bore the brunt of this. But today, the food and fuel crisis has brought them together.
මේ මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ ඇතුළු කණ්ඩායම අරගෙන යන වැඩපිළිවෙලට අපි සම්පූර්ණ විරුද්ධයි හාමුදුරුවෝ. මෙතෙක් කලක් අපි ඉවසගෙන හිටියා. ඉවසගෙන ඉඳලා බැරි මත නැතම රටේ ජනතාව විශේෂයෙන් තරුණ පරම්පරාව දෙක අරමුණකට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ.
Gotabaya Rajpaksha came to power in 2019, shortly after the Easter attacks. At that time, the Muslim minority became the target of racial and religious discrimination and unjustified crackdowns. There were hate campaigns speared on by the government under Rajpaksha's watch. Perhaps the Rajpakshas never expected to see Muslims, Hindus, Christians and Sinhalese Buddhists stand united on the streets calling for them to go home.
The disaffection with the Rajapaksa style of politics and the Rajapaksa style of governing is saying, well, maybe they manipulated us and maybe they roused this. And why should we be split? Why should we be divided?
With this type of hardship that everybody has been subjected to by the deliberate and inefficient governance by the ruling cabal, as we call it, the Rajpaksas. So there is this widespread cry for their ouster.
Gotabaya Rajpaksha came to power in the year 2019 with a sweeping victory, and this was all possible because of the maximum vote share coming in from the Sinhala community. In fact, the political passions had divided these communities, but today, just for one reason, which is the economic crisis, we're seeing everyone coming onto the streets. It's not about the people, but we're talking about the religious heads, be it the Sinhala Buddhists or Christians or Muslims or Hindus. They have all come here out to the streets just for one reason, in fact demanding the resignation of Gotabaya Rajpaksha. In fact, making it amply clear that this is a fall from grace for all the Rajpakshas. In Colombo, with camera person Govind Murthy, Shrija for NDTV.